What's happening, gang? It's your boy Retro back again with another reaction video. Yeah. So we got another huge update. Now, you guys can probably already tell that it is going down. Just by that title alone, you guys are definitely gonna want to check this one out. So we got that Minnesota representative Ilhan Omar now in the hot seat, looking at some major trouble after her latest statements in an interview, essentially applauding the tragedy of Charlie Kirk, guys. And I'm excited to get into this one, so we're not straight into it. All I ask that you guys please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and without further ado, hop straight into it, folks. Check this one out.
My job as FBI director is not to speak to motive, is to speak to the facts. And that's what I'm going to do. His family has collectively told investigators that he subscribed to left-wing ideology, and even more so in these last couple of years. And he had a text message exchange, he the suspect, with another individual, in which he claimed that he had an opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and he was going to do it because of his hatred for what Charlie stood for. Those are factually accurate investigatory findings by the FBI that we've handed over to the local authorities and the federal authorities to make their prosecutorial decisions.
Well, the problem is on the left. If you look at the problem is on the left. It's not on the right, like some people like to say on the right. The problem we have is on the left. And when you look at the agitators, you look at the scum that speaks so badly of our country, the American flag burnings all over the place, that's the left. That's not the right.
There's a spiritual awakening going on, and it's called a turning point. It's happened before in American history when the society gets sick, and then all of a sudden something happens, and you try to cleanse that evil from the country. I love what the media is doing. It's about time, and it's not cancel culture. Okay, this is America healing. Cancel culture is when you say something politically incorrect about the WNBA or about COVID, and then you lose your job. When you're celebrating death and fellow Americans getting shot in the head for freedom of speech, you're complicit and you're part of the problem, and you don't belong in civil society. So I'm glad people are losing their jobs for this. Every person that loses their job for celebrating Charlie's assassination is a step in the right direction for this country. There is an assassination cult. We've seen the polling on it. 55% of liberals think it's okay to politically assassinate people. All right. So you see it bubbling up on the internet. And that's what Stephen King's problem is. He's in a cabin in the woods in Maine by himself behind a screen all day. And then he says something ridiculous and gets smacked around because the man hasn't touched another human being in 3 decades. And that's why Charlie was so impressive. He physically went out to the quad and was surrounded by flesh.
So he's the opposite of King.
The exact opposite. He's looking people in the eyeballs. He's not behind a screen. I love what Cox said today. He said, get off the screen and touch the grass. People have to get outside and look at each other as human beings. And I believe we're starting to see that.
So it looks like we're finally seeing a step in the right direction in regards to the firings and holding these loonies on the left accountable for their words, openly celebrating the loss of one on the right. And the next one up for firing is going to be that Minnesota representative Ilhan Omar, after her latest interview, sat down with Mehdi Hassan, and they basically grinned from ear to ear over the tragedy of Charlie Kirk.
What I do know for sure is that, you know, Charlie was someone who once said, guns save lives after a school shooting. Charlie was someone who was willing to debate and downplay the death of George Floyd in the hands of Minneapolis police.
I think he called him a scumbag.
Right, have no regard, downplay slavery and what Black people have gone through in this country by saying Juneteenth should never exist. And I think, there are a lot of people who are out there talking about him just wanting to have a civil debate.
Complete rewriting of history.
Yeah, there is nothing more effed up, than to completely pretend that his words and actions have not been recorded and in existence for the last decade or so.
Absolutely sick. We can see them nearly chinning and grinning when speaking on the tragedy of Charlie Kirk. Yet another Democrat, this time Representative Ilhan Omar, attempted to justify the tragedy of Charlie Kirk by saying it was his political opinions and viewpoints that led up to his fate. But we cannot accept that. We cannot accept any form of political violence. We should have an open forum and room for discussion without feeling like someone's going to be harmed. And right after this, we got President Donald Trump respond to Ilhan Omar, saying that any of these individuals that came out chinning and grinning and celebrating the tragedy of Charlie Kirk could potentially be at risk of having their visas revoked and immediately being deported back to their home country.
Have you asked to start revoking the visas of the foreigners who have celebrated Charlie Kirk's death?
No, we haven't, but we are looking at names. We don't like that. That's not right. We wouldn't celebrate if something happened on their side, and we don't. These are sick people. These are really deranged people.
And that was President Donald Trump calling it straight down the center, hitting that nail on the head where he says you have to look at it from a lens of if the shoe was on the other foot. And this was someone from the left that was lost. You would not have had the similar reaction or response coming from folks on the right. We would not have been celebrating because it is just simply not right. And now President Donald Trump is saying he's looking at all these foreigners who came out openly celebrating the loss of one on the right, saying that they may have their visas revoked. And we know Representative Ilhan Omar did not keep quiet. She responded very quickly saying that folks need to come out, Americans need to come out and reject Trump in the streets.
Masked, armed men who are in plain clothes that are snatching people off the streets, unwilling to identify themselves. You have the military being deployed in our streets. My God, this is America. You have states' rights being disregarded. So, a constitutional crisis that's being created in front of our eyes. And the same week where we have a president who has deployed the military who are trained to kill our enemies, not Americans, but our enemies, are in our streets. It's the same week that we are going to have a military parade. Can you imagine that image that is going to be coming out of our country? I mean, I grew up in a dictatorship. And I don't even remember ever witnessing anything like that. To have a democracy, a beacon of hope for the world to now be turned into one of the worst countries where the military are in our streets without any regard for people's constitutional rights, while our president is spending millions of dollars propping himself up like a failed dictator with a military parade. It is really shocking, and it should be a wake-up call for all Americans to say this is not the country we were born in. This is not the country we believe in. This is not the country our founding fathers imagined. And this is not the country that is supported by our Constitution, our ideals, our values. And we should all collectively be out in the streets rejecting what is taking place this week.
We're seeing Ilhan Omar attempting to call to action to Americans, saying that we need to stand up and reject Trump in the streets because this is not what we voted for, and this is not the America that we know and love. But frankly, it is. This is exactly what we voted for, making America great again. And amidst all this controversy with Ilhan Omar, there are tons of folks weighing in on the situation, especially her sit-down interview with Mehdi Hassan. Patrick Bet-David of the PBD podcast chimes in with his crew, stating that Ilhan Omar may be at jeopardy of losing her seat as the representative in Minnesota.
About these two people. Here, this is why you got to love America and also feel very uneasy about America. Here are two people who are not born in America, who fundamentally want to change America, who hate what America is actually even founded on. And because of who we are as a country, they have the ability to say, no. We want to reinvent America and what it is today. The disrespect that they can't even acknowledge that a man was assassinated. And immediately they go to, well, he said this, almost like he had it coming. Only in America, two people that we've brought in from another side of the world, from Somalia and I believe the UK, I want to say, to come in and criticize the foundation of America only in America.
Yeah, and by the way, Vinny, your thoughts when you hear Ilhan Omar? How do you process this?
Man, you want to talk about what makes me be an angry patriot? Is because of stuff like that. The tone deaf, like you in a moment where somebody was literally shot, murdered, assassinated. And I love how we'll talk about it later about D.L. Hughley and all these people saying it's not an assassination. He wasn't a political figure. Really? He wasn't in the top 2 reasons why Donald Trump won, especially with the young vote, with what he was doing in colleges. Give me a break. And I love that you pointed it out. This country is freaking the greatest country in the history of the world, and we still have to let people like this say what they're going to say. No consequences. Just speak your mind. But the lack of empathy, the lack of caring that, bro, the guy was shot in the neck and bled out with his wife and his children in the area. Okay, and then this is the rhetoric. And let's be honest. You guys know what he stood for, Pat. We knew Charlie. Okay, what would he do? First and foremost, he fought for his faith, for Jesus Christ. Unapologetic. He didn't water it down because of freaking culture. He brought the Bible into politics, and he started waking up the youth. He went hard on being pro-life. He believed America is worth saving, and he empowered the next generation. And that's what he gets. He gets shot in the freaking neck, and then you have losers like this, Ilhan Omar, who hates America. They hate America. They hate anybody speaking up for America to try to save it. This is the other side that we always talk about. The people that hate this place, that want to destroy it. And I'm sorry. As much as I call these people evil and all this stuff, they're not going to win. They're not going to win because God's light is too bright, period.
I agree. Tom, your thoughts?
So, well, as I've said, and it bothers me, the price of free speech is free speech. It doesn't bother me having free speech. It bothers me at these moments because you have 3 types of liberals that are out there right now. Those that are saying what they think in broad daylight, and it's exactly what they think, like Omar, who does not, she has such a voting block there, she does not have to worry about re-election, she only has to worry about criticism. And so she's going to go out and go hard on this as she did. Then you have the liberals that are posturing a bit and being very careful because they know it's an extremely dangerous situation. And if they say something, they wave the flag and they let you know how they feel, but they're being super careful about it. And then the last group is ones that are hiding or not saying anything. But that's the liberals. But the price of free speech is free speech. And this is what the founding fathers didn't want the government to suppress one way or the other, but it can anger you, and there can be consequences, big consequences.
That was a couple of great takes coming from the crew of the PBD podcast. Exactly why I wanted to show you guys that brief clip. We see them making the point to say that this is why the freedom of speech or the First Amendment rights kind of hinders America. We see 2 folks that weren't natural born citizens of America able to come out and openly speak so negatively, so nasty about the tragedy of Charlie Kirk without any consequences or repercussions for their words. But doesn't look like Representative Ilhan Omar is going to get off the hook that easy, as we now have her being held to a different standard. You got to think she is a congresswoman, a sitting congresswoman. We have House Speaker Mike Johnson, one of the only folks who could come down and slam that hammer, expel her from any of the special committees that she's on, coming out weighing in on the situation, saying that she may not be getting off as easy as she thought.
And she was referring more broadly to a lot of people on the right that she says have now resulted in her having death threats and the need for around-the-clock security, which I know you've talked about. That's not something you can do for every member. It would cost billions of dollars. But what do you make of her characterization that he really wasn't about civil debates?
She clearly has no idea what she's talking about. She has not followed Charlie. She's playing into this characterization of him that the left has been advancing. There are people actually celebrating his murder online, and that tells you everything you need to know about that side. We've got to get cut through that. Look, member security is a serious matter. We're looking into all options to increase security measures so that they have plenty of coverage for their residential security and their personal security as well. And I think we'll be able to handle that. But there is this angst out there, and we've got to turn the rhetoric down. That is exactly the opposite of what we should be doing, what you just saw in that video right there. And I hope all members of Congress will join us.
House Speaker Mike Johnson chiming in saying we need to see a decrease of that dangerous rhetoric coming from these folks on the left, because it's not going to help us make America great again. It's only going to further push that wedge and that divide in between us and our neighbor, and that is truly dangerous. He also mentions that Representative Ilhan Omar is not completely off the hook or exempt from penalty simply because of the First Amendment rights. We've been seeing the way that folks, everyday Americans across our nation on the left, have been being removed and fired from their positions as a direct result of them openly coming out and celebrating the tragedy of Charlie Kirk. So why can't the same happen to Representative Ilhan Omar? I mean, she's practically been asking for it. I found this story that kind of parallels or another government position, a person in a government position, and that was also held accountable, suspended from their role and their duty as a direct result of them coming out and trying to justify the tragedy of Charlie Kirk. We got this one coming from our friend Nick Sorta here on X, where he says, breaking, Army Colonel Scott Stevens has now been suspended by War Secretary Pete Hegseth after he justified the tragedy of Charlie Kirk. So we're seeing that it's happening to folks like this, where it's happening to everyday Americans. These folks on the left want to continue to push that narrative and try to justify what happened to Charlie Kirk. They're going to be held accountable. And Ilhan Omar is not exempt from it either. I mean, she's practically been begging for it, where she's coming out and been seen in multiple clips coming out and saying that she has been taken from her homeland, her country of Somalia, and that she wishes to return.
In jidadkeennii aan wada dhisano, anigu waan ahay gabar Mareykanka laga doortay oo Kongresska Mareykanka ku jirto, laakiin waxaan ahay gabar Soomaaliyeed, gabar idinku jinsi ah, gabar idinku af ah, gabar idinku diin ah, oo hadde qof iyadoo da'yar wadankeedii laga kaxeeyay wili xiise u qabto in maalin wadankeedii ay ku noolaato oo dadkeedii wax ay la wadaagto. Marka alxamdulillah waxaan rajaynayaa aniga iyo ilmahayga in aan hadde ku barbaariyo iyagana ilmahooda ay ku barbaariyaan dhulkii aniga aan ku soo koray. taasna haddii ay suurtagelayso waa hadda shaqo badan inaan wada qabanaa hadduu Ilaahay yiraahdo oo aan ka dhignaa dhulkeena dhul barwaaqadiisa dadka oo dhan ay dareemi karaan oo ay arki karaan oo ay ka wada faa'iideysan karaan.
All right, guys, and I do apologize for the language barrier there. That was Ilhan Omar essentially saying I am a Somali girl taken from my country. I miss my country and I dream of living in Somalia again. So it's not too far off to say that Representative Ilhan Omar should probably go back to where she knows and loves the country, right? But we've got tons of folks weighing in. The internet is buzzing behind these remarks and statements from Ilhan Omar surrounding the tragedy of Charlie Kirk. And I want to show you guys what folks are talking about on the net. We got Bridget here, Bridget Gabriel, tweeting out saying that Ilhan Omar is a traitor to our nation. And I don't think that's too far off to say. It does seem that she loves Somalia a little bit more than she loves the country that, you know, has been very great to her, welcomed her with open arms, but yet she treats us like she does not want to be in this nation. It doesn't make sense why she remains in our country. We also have Congressman Randy Fine here weighing in saying that Ilhan Omar, the Democrat from Somalia, should never have been let into our country in the first place. And after the way you've seen her talk and behave in our country, I don't think he's wrong in saying that whatsoever. We have John Strand here also chiming in saying, I am planting the flag. I am laying down the gauntlet now. Every Republican in Congress who does not publicly support the obvious move to expel Ilhan Omar, an openly hostile enemy of the United States, should be listed and voted out of office. Against all enemies, foreign and domestic, is what you swore to an oath. And finally, we have our friend Sean Davis here tweeting out saying expelling Omar from Congress, denaturalizing her, and sending her back is the moderate position. This is now the middle. I mean, this isn't too far-fetched or far out to believe. I mean, most folks are recommending it because of the way that she's acted towards our country, towards everyday American citizens. She does not want to be here. Yo, there we have it, guys. Oh my goodness. Finally seeing this situation that seemed to be getting out of hand with these folks on the left coming out and openly celebrating the tragedy of Charlie Kirk, being addressed and being handled in the most appropriate manner, with these folks being removed and fired from their positions all across the nation. And now it's up to our leadership. Mike Johnson, is he going to hold Ilhan Omar accountable for her actions, her words, the way that she's been nasty and negative over the tragedy of Charlie Kirk. My grandmother always tells me that if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. I'm just thinking of it from the perspective that Donald Trump put us in, saying, hey, if the shoe was on the other foot and this was someone from the left, there would not have been celebrations. Heck, we got so many times where folks are saying that, you know, Joe Biden, there's been a tragedy with Joe Biden, and you didn't see folks coming out and saying hoorah or, you know, thanking the Lord for it. We were just in prayer, making sure that he is okay. Even if he wasn't serving our country with the best interest in mind, we still did not celebrate when things came to light like this. It really just shows you the true colors of those on the left. Grandma also tells me that if folks show you who they are once, just believe them. You don't have to try to dig deeper into the situation. These lefties are showing us exactly who they are. Very nasty and negative people, guys. But definitely hop in that comment section. Comments are open. I'm excited to hear what you guys are thinking on this one. Also, make sure you guys please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you'd enjoy more content like this, catch you guys on the next one. We